Moose Johnston, who played with Michael Irvin in Dallas, joining us here in the Man Cave. Michael Irvin's crazy.
Yes, he is.
Crazy,
he is.
Entertaining. But what was it like to be a teammate of his?
What you see is what we got to see on a daily basis. I mean, there was nobody that was more passionate about the game. You know, when I was in college and I watched him play at the University of Miami, he was one of those guys that I hated him. I mean, I couldn't believe it. You know, he was the leader of the "Hey, look at me" generation. And then I got to Dallas, and he becomes a teammate of mine. And I would not want anybody else on my team besides Michael Irvin.
Well, he said he would go out Saturday night, but he was always there Sunday.
I don't need to know those things. There's things that I don't want to know about Michael Irvin as a teammate. I got to keep it the way I see it right now.
But, you know, Michael has said that he probably cost you guys another Super Bowl.
No.
You don't believe that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, the best shot we had was '94 when we went out to San Francisco, and you know, Michael, you know, he didn't really do anything. You know, that was us. I mean, 21-0 after 5 minutes. I mean, that was everybody. You can't fall down 21 because one person's playing poorly. That was a group effort that day.
All right, what do you take away from yesterday with the news? That usually media day, you guys are programmed not to say anything. Here we had Alex Smith. People want to know where he's going to play next year. You had Ray Lewis with deer antler spray. You had Randy Moss, greatest of all time. I mean, that's a pretty, as media days go, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's so much for the if you could be a tree, what tree would you be question. Yeah, there was a lot of meat out there yesterday, and you know, you knew the Alex Smith question was going to be there. I mean, it's something a lot of people have talked about. People are trying to figure out how they're going to handle that situation. The Randy Moss one is interesting. I feel, and this is not to take anything away from Randy, but I just feel that there's a number of positions where you can get into a discussion of who's the greatest of all time. At quarterback, running back, a lot of spots. But in my opinion, really, wide receiver, that one's kind of off the blocks. You know, that one's kind of settled pretty well. So, you know, you can kind of see the point he's trying to make. But yeah, Jerry, you're really not going to talk me out of the fact that Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time.
Now, Michael Irvin said that he thought there was a method to Randy's madness, that he was bringing this up so we would be talking about Randy Moss. Now, do you think that Randy actually went in thinking, now, first of all, he says, hey, I don't like my role here with the Niners. I mean, you're in the Super Bowl. I mean, you get the feeling that if you said you can have 100 catches with Buffalo, or you can be in the Super Bowl with the Niners, you know, he might have to hesitate a little bit to go, I don't know.
Yeah, and didn't he go to New England? The whole reason why he went to New England was the opportunity to win a Super Bowl there, too. So you're at that stage of your career where, you know, you were stat-driven young. You wanted to be considered the greatest of all time. You're going to revolutionize a position. But at some point, it's about the team and winning championships. It should always be. But for some of these guys, there's a lot of individual accomplishments that they want to achieve first. And I think if they would realize that with team success, individual honors always follow that you get a lot farther along the line. But, you know, when Randy was in his prime, he was as tough as anybody on the outside. And we still have guys that we talk to today. When people are playing San Francisco, they always say, listen, you know, don't go to sleep on Randy Moss. You know, he can still get behind you, and he can still catch anything around him. So there's a lot of respect out there for Randy still.
He's Daryl Moose Johnston joining us, Dan Patrick Show. He'll also be joining me, the DirecTV Beach Bowl coming up on Saturday, where we'll have him be the analyst for these celebrities playing in the Celebrity Beach Bowl. You have an interesting story with the crooked finger on your right hand?
I don't. It's one of the ones that, you know, kind of happened, and I think it just got worse over time. I don't ever remember it being that bad when I was playing. If you see a lot of the old photos, I'll have these two taped together. So at some point there was something going on, but you would think if it looked like that you would do something more than just tape it. So I think in the NFL you don't get a gold watch. I think you get one of those when you retire.
You don't want to fix it?
You know, I've tried. They say they really won't get any function out of it. One of the reasons I didn't do it when I was playing is because I would have to be in a cast for 6 weeks right after the season, and that's the most important time for me. It's weightlifting and everything, getting back into it. So to go into a cast for 6 weeks.
What about a Ronnie Lott story?
That one, that's crazy.
I mean, he cut off the tip of his finger
to get back in the game.
Yeah. Would you do that? Would you have done that?
I don't know if I could have. You like to think that you're a tough guy and you could you do anything for the team. But Ronnie took it to a whole new level with that one.
But if it didn't hurt, let's say it's not going to hurt, you're just going to have a weird looking. You're going to have half a.
Oh yeah. That's it. I mean, it can't get any weirder than that.
No.
I mean, Ronnie's might look better than that actually.
Doesn't he have one?
Baldinger's got a bad one. Anthony Munoz may have the worst. Anthony Munoz could be a CIA operative just with his pinky. He could just like,
You played against Ray Lewis, right?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
You never faced him?
Never faced Ray Lewis. I'm almost positive. But, I've been asked this. I am almost positive. I would retired at the start of 2000.
Now, you guys overlapped 3 years, I think, in your careers, but you never faced him.
I do not think
you would have remembered.
How can you not? Unless we hit that hard and you just try to forget about the whole thing.
Toughest defensive guy, like that. When you played, you could see him a lot across the line of scrimmage. And
Eric Hill.
Really?
Yeah. To me, he reminds me a lot of what Ray became. He was 6'3", 250, 255, downhill in the running game, never left the field on third down.
You had to block these guys.
And we had a very, very simple game plan against the Arizona Cardinals. It was pretty much let's run downhill. And Eric Hill and I had a number of very, very violent collisions through the year.
Do you worry about the collisions, concussions?
I don't. I'm being proactive with everything. And maybe you're being proactive because you're concerned. I wouldn't say worried. I think we're all concerned.
Well, what does proactive mean?
There's a group in Dallas that I'm working with that's fantastic. The Center for Brain Health. You go in and do a diagnostic. They do a scan. They put you through a very, very intense cognitive test to see how your cognitive ability is. Their whole theory is if there is an issue, there's things we can do right now that we may not be able to do when you're 60 years old. So I'm trying to encourage all the guys that I know that played the game that may have an issue to go in and see them. That's one of the things. There's a lot of groups out there that are doing great things in this arena. And, unfortunately, when the talk goes to concussions, it's always a tragic story. It's always a scary story. There is some positives that are coming out of this whole thing. Return to play policies have become much stricter. My son's 13 years old. He gets a baseline. Every year before the start of the season, he gets a baseline test. He has to get back to that
13.
baseline. Yeah, exactly. He's been getting it since he was 7 years old at school. You can't go back. There's a big thing in Texas right now. The concern in high school is with the parents. Because if you get a concussion, you're out the following week. Well, they're trying to, no, he didn't have a concussion. So we're changing the dialogue, we're changing the conversation in a positive way, and I think we need to talk more about that. And trust me, when we have these tragic situations that we've had, we've got to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. But we also need to talk about some of the good things that are happening, and a lot of the light that this whole conversation has shed on something that we never really talked about for 25 years, 30 years.
Help me with the Jerry Jones situation, with what he's doing with the staff that he's bringing in. So Jason Garrett's not bringing in his guys. Jerry's bringing in his guys. Why do I not connect the dots here and say, these are John Gruden's guys?
The conspiracy theory.
Well, but just on the surface.
Well, number one, Rod Marinelli is a Monty Kiffin guy. You're going to be able to trace back lines and get it to John Gruden. There was an article in the Dallas paper where when Jason hired the wide receiver coach from Tennessee, that was a true Jason Garrett hire because it had no connection to John Gruden. So we're really starting to run with this now, and it all comes down to the players, and that's one of the things that people have to understand. Coaches coach and players play, and I thought one of the really interesting things that happened in the NFC Championship game is when Joe and Troy did the little piece on Mike Nolan and showed all the talent that Mike Nolan had brought into San Francisco while he was the head coach, and the benefit that Jim Harbaugh had from those. I mean, that was an unbelievable group of guys that Mike Nolan had brought into San Francisco. He just didn't have the opportunity, the time to be successful with that group. It all comes down to players.
Do you think Jason Garrett is going to be like?
I think it's a mistake. I really do.
What do you mean?
You have to have consistency. To make a change, take a step back. And why do we want to make this change right now? The offensive line was beat up last year. The starting offensive five didn't play together for the first time until the opening game of the season. They were in disarray throughout the course of the year. The breakdowns in the passing game, the breakdowns in the running game, a lot of that can be traced to the offensive line. When we look at the two teams in the Super Bowl, San Francisco has the best, if not one of the best, offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah.
The big change in Baltimore, Terrell Suggs is back and he's getting healthy. Ray Lewis is back. They've got some pieces falling into place. But the big change is Bryant McKinney's at left tackle. They've reshuffled their offensive line since the playoffs started, and it's the best group that they've had. They're as consistent as they've ever been. The offensive line is a huge part of it. It impacts Tony's turnovers, his decisions. There were other issues that caused the interceptions to go up. When you make that change, you better be making it for the right reasons. And I think you really need to take a step back and look at the entire picture. I'll give you a great scenario right now. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be a beneficiary of a decision that Philadelphia made. I think Andy Reid's going to go into Kansas City, and I think he's going to get that place turned around pretty quick.
Before I let you go, what are you doing with Purina?
We are doing the Canine Combine later this afternoon, and the people at Purina, they have a whole series with their Pro Plan products that's it's kind of like what we did as football players. You want to get people around the best coaching, the best training, the best nutrition you possibly can, and Purina's done that with the Pro Plan series. They've also got an app, the P5 app, and we started about a month ago. So the dog that I'm going to be working with today is actually our dog, our family dog. And over the last month, using the app, the P5 app, myself and I told my daughter, I said, listen, this is January. I travel a lot. If we're going to be able to pull this off in New Orleans, I'm going to need your help. She's 11, so she's been out there training Gunner as well. So she's really the one that's got him, going through the tunnels, going over the A-frame, going over the hurdles. We've got him catching a Frisbee. A little bit is on me. I'm not the best Frisbee thrower in the world, so he's a little bit challenged there. But we're blown away by what he's done in a month. So, if you've got a dog and you really want the opportunity to have him become the best he can be, I highly recommend the app and the whole program. It's been great for the dog, but it's been great for our family too.
What's the website? Or
if you go to the Apple Store, and it's the P5 app.
Okay.
P5 training app from Purina.
I will see you on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to it.
Daryl Moose Johnston, he'll be broadcasting the Beach Bowl with me on DirecTV coming up this Saturday.